Well, yeah, I would say they are over policed with respect to drug crime, but that's where people tend to keep the focus. They're under policed with respect to violent crime, and that's a straightforward reading of the data on clearance rates, which is the technical term for how likely a murder is to be solved. With respect to police brutality,
Why is that? I know back you were saying
Yeah.
because of what was it, eugenics?
Oh yeah, well yeah,
But
but
now-
there's this historical problem of black communities being under policed with homicide. But today the problem is largely, it's partially the fact that black people in black communities are less likely to trust the police, and therefore less likely to testify, and convicting murderers is deeply reliant on eyewitness testimony. There's also this huge problem of once you agree to testify against someone, the police can't really protect you. Like the witness protection program, there's a huge problem with people who snitch getting killed. Jill Leovy, that LA Times journalist, has written a book about this called Ghettocide, in which she interviews all these people who, they saw the murder happen, or they know who the murderer is, but are terrified to testify because because they know someone who got killed for testifying, because it happens that frequently. So there are serious obstacles from a policing perspective. But getting back to the police brutality concern, and specifically the most inflammatory grievance is that there's an open season for police killing black men. Right? There's no reason to believe that this is true.
Yeah, I've heard things such as like being hunted down. I've seen, I think on the View, and probably a lot of other things I've seen. I think it was Sunny Hostin. She was crying after one of the shootings because she was saying she's so scared for her husband and son. So that makes me wonder what the numbers are, right? Like how many, what is this in comparison to say the black on black crime or the whole thing?
So every year, based on Washington Post data, they keep a close database of this, roughly 1,000 Americans get killed by the cops every year.
Total.
Total. Yep. And, something like, 80 or 90% of those people are armed and dangerous when they're killed. And the vast majority of those shootings are justified. Right? So, think about 1,000, that's roughly 3 people every day. And the reason we don't hear about this is because they're justified, right? We don't hear about 3 reports of police shootings every day because
there wouldn't be much.
Yeah, right. There it's not a story because these are largely justified shootings. And then there's this smaller group of unarmed people who get killed every year. And for black people, this is in recent years, it's ranged from 15 people per year to 30 or 40. In recent years, it's been towards the lower end. And in 2016, 2017, and 2018, there have been more white unarmed people killed than blacks. And some of those shootings are justified. Some of them are just murder. Some of them are just the most straightforward examples of police misconduct. And so there's a few.
I'm sorry. You say the number's around 14, 15 a year
of people who get. It varies widely.
Black.
It varies widely. It can be 20 per year, but it ranges between like 15 and 40, according to the Washington Post database of how many unarmed black people get killed per year. But it's more unarmed white people getting killed. So like, I don't remember the specific numbers, but this year thus far more unarmed whites have been killed than unarmed blacks, and that's true in 2017, and it was true in 2016 that more unarmed whites got killed, sometimes by a factor of 2. So you don't hear this as much in the news, of course,
right?
Because it doesn't gel with the narrative that there's an open season on black people. But the argument that I usually hear at this point is, well, black people make up 14% of the population, so shouldn't they make up 14% people who are killed instead of 25 or 30, which is the case for the out of the whole 1,000, it's something like 25% roughly are black. Like, isn't that 10% disparity evidence that there is an issue, a racial issue? That doesn't make any sense, because it's not as if the police don't go around like census collectors,
Right.
randomly killing every 100th person, right? They're coming into contact with suspects. They're coming into contact with, they're getting calls, and they're going up to the people described in the calls and getting into altercations. And if those altercations go sideways, that's when police shootings tend to happen. Black people are very overrepresented, as we've talked about, among criminals. And so you can't be surprised when police are coming into contact much more often with black people just based off the 911 calls they're getting, and they're getting into altercations with them more, right? So no, it's not evident. I mean, the fact that black people make up like 25% of total people who get killed by the police is not evidence that the police are out to get black people.
Right, because you were
Right.
mentioning the 50% crime
Yeah.
being committed by black people. And
Yeah,
so,
that homicides
or
specifically.
I'm sorry,
yeah,
homicides. Yeah.
And so, like, I mean, every year for which we have data, out of the total 1,000 that get killed, it's twice as many white people as black people. Almost, sometimes twice, sometimes a little less than twice. And some people don't even know that fact.
Right. And I would assume for the same reasons we were saying before when it comes to the media.
Yeah.
And what they're incentivized to put out and not.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think just there are two pieces here where the police get rightly criticized. One is that there are just cases every year of shootings that are totally unjustified, where any reasonable consideration of justice would have this policeman or woman convicted of a crime, and they usually get off free. They have an almost automatic immunity in those cases. So that is a totally legitimate concern, and it's also legitimate to just be concerned about the total number of people being killed to begin with. It could be the case that there's some reform that we could do, some better way to train cops where we could reduce the total number. So yeah, cops kill too many people, but it's not a racial issue.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching the episode. If you're interested in contributing to the conversation and supporting the show, there's 2 easy things you can do. 1, click subscribe, and 2, visit our Patreon page where you get exclusive access to the Exploring Minds community.